What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Good
I'm
to
good,
see
I'm good. How you, man? Looking all dapper, man, and looking like the Zaire Baptiste that I know, baby.
you. Just trying to keep it like it's supposed to be. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Let me set you up real quick. For all my people out there, man, I got the opportunity tonight, man, to chat with a real good friend, man. You know what I mean? It goes by the name of Zaire, you know what I mean? Baptiste. He's a director, producer, filmmaker, you name it, my man will put it in motion for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
So Zaire, baby, it's how the industry treating you these days.
Pretty good, pretty good. Been diversifying a little bit. I've always been in the art space, but since I last seen you, I opened up an art gallery in Brooklyn. So,
Okay.
we've been integrating that into the whole like content creation space, and
Right.
so um, that's been a project that's been pretty pretty good so far.
Okay.
I teamed up
Okay.
with Miles Davis's estate, and we put
Mm.
out a whole collection of artwork and clothing and created a film around um, art and Miles Davis's legacy.
Right. So let's crack it off like this, because everybody
So,
don't know you like I know you.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
So let everybody know, man, where you're originally from, and essentially we're gonna talk about everything that you do,
yeah,
but
yeah,
how long you've been doing the things that you've been doing.
yeah. So I'm from Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn right now, Brooklyn, New
Mm-hmm.
York, and I've been. I think it's been like it's almost coming up on a 20-year run on this. Really, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. All right, let's get right to it. I swear I do, because I see the bio, right? And multidisciplinary creative director.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've been doing quite a
Please
bit.
break that down for me and for
So,
the folks out there.
so what I've been doing as of late in the last couple of years, like creative direction in that space is, and why I say multidisciplinary is because it takes place in all of these different sectors. It could be fashion, it could be film, it could be television, it could be art, it could be music. But how that, whatever the product is, how that's being packaged, presented to the audience, who's orchestrating what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to sound like, um, and then presenting that to the audience. So that creative director, that creative person is the one who is in kind of in control of what that looks like. So I've been doing that in quite a few spaces.
Okay.
So, like, what sparked your passion for being a creative director and, the technology and fashion and all of that good stuff?
Well, I
What
think it
sparked
came
that?
from. So what it came from was it came from um, my love of acting because when I started this whole road, it was acting, and um,
Hmm.
Okay.
and so early on I had done the soap operas. I was on As the World Turns, and I used to do those reenactments on Maury Povich and all those kinds of things. So it came from that, and then it went from that into if I'm gonna try to tell these stories, I could create these stories myself. Then
Hmm.
becoming the filmmaker and writing these stories and producing these stories. Um, so that's where it came from. It came from my desire to tell stories, and what I ended up doing now is telling those stories in these different spaces. And so, as like we were saying, as a creative director, because and I use the word creative director because when I get in that space, I'm a lot of times I've written something, I've directed it, I've produced it, I've curated an art exhibit, I've uh, produced a project in that way. So I say creative director instead of using all those other words, but those are all the things that I do inside of that space.
Okay.
Absolutely. You've absolutely grown, man, since we've had that conversation when
Yeah,
we was down here in Phoenix.
yeah, and it's
Um,
so funny. Let me go back because I know Sand because I was with a dance company, and
mhm.
that's a whole other end of things. I was with a dance company for 16 years, and we it was kind of Cirque du Soleil esque, kind of high
Right.
falls and flying and all those kinds of things. And I came from that space, and so we were actually on tour in Phoenix, and that's when I met Sangria, and so that's even another space. And I continue in. I'm not with the dance company anymore. I actually in 2021 I did my last show with them. I fell off a piece of
Wow.
equipment just before the
Mm.
show happened, and I tore my rotator cuff. I
Wow.
have surgery on my knee. I cracked 3 ribs. So and the
Wow.
dancing is intense like
Mm.
that, but and the equipment is intense. So falling from that, ended up getting hurt, and I ended up kind of falling back from that a little bit. But in that space, um, I create things around dance. Like I did a huge art exhibit, um, with a fellow artist of mine and some dancers, and I put that together and I let him kind of paint them as they were moving. And as they moved through the space, he kind of painted them and it kind of told the story as it went on. So, you know, I take all of the things that I do and all of the things that I'm involved with and find an intersection for them. And wherever they meet, I create something new at that point.
Right.
Okay. And
You
with all your talent, you've received a lot of prestigious awards for things that you've done, right? Like the Tellys and the Guineas. Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit about
yeah,
that.
yeah. So um, so I won myself and the team won a Guinness record for the largest video game playing surface. So when Candy
wow.
Wow.
Crush was launching Candy Crush Saga, you know, we were tasked with creating this experience for people to play the game. So what happened was we video projection mapped a 30-story building in New York City, and people
Mm.
could play Candy Crush on that building. And so it
Wow.
happened
Wow.
in real time. And so we gotten a Guinness Award for the largest video game playing service. I was in 2018, and through that time, like as I keep creating um, content, keep creating these things, there are opportunities that come up. So we got a Telly and a Davy Award and a .com Award. What happened was during the pandemic, um, there was a sports brand that used to be out. It was called Stoll and Dean, similar to Mitchell and Ness. They were Mitchell and Ness's competition. So I relaunched them during the pandemic, and I did it in my house, and
Okay.
I was able to secure them a deal with a distribution company for the NBA and for the NHL. And I hadn't sold any clothes. So I was
Right.
making content around the clothes. Like I was incorporating sports and the lifestyle and the clothing together, making content and getting people excited about its return. It's a 125-year-old brand. It's the original brand that clothed the Negro League baseball
Mm.
players, did a ton of things. So, I was able to, like I said, while sitting at home in the middle of the pandemic, I would go out and I would shoot content with people I knew, and I created these vignettes that I then put out on social media. It got a lot of traction. That traction got some interest from groups who were familiar with the brand but didn't know that the brand was coming back out, and we were able to like negotiate a deal, and they were able to get going again. So yeah, it
Yeah.
sat stagnant, and I don't know if you know, but a part of what I did was I went back to every rapper because at that point in the early 2000s, every single rapper, and so I used all the pictures of these rappers wearing everything. I mean, from Jay-Z to Shaq to whoever you name it, they all had it. So we kind of brought that back, and I brought in the person who put those clothes on their back at that time 20 years ago, 15,
Wow.
17 years ago, and he told the
Mm.
story of each one, how he got it
Hmm.
to this person, how he got it to that person, and that those kinds of pieces of content really made um, people like kind of notice it, and then it went from there. So you don't necessarily have to sell anything because, like I said, I didn't sell
Right.
one piece of clothing to to
Right.
be able to secure them that deal. I didn't sell anything. I wasn't even trying to
So
sell anything.
So like with you being an artist and different things of that stuff, as one of the founders of the Spot for the Arts in Brooklyn, like how did that idea for the gallery come about? Like what was the mission for that?
And the gallery kind of came about. It was, it wasn't. I don't call it a fluke. It happened because it was supposed to happen. We got the opportunity. We had already been doing things in the art space and exhibits and things of that nature, but we didn't have a home for it.
Right.
And the opportunity for that gallery came up, and then we took it, and from there we just started crafting a bunch of different, experiences. One of the things that I do, one of the other things that I do is I produce experiential uh, experiential activations for brands. And what that is
Mm.
people don't know, whenever they go to these, like whenever a brand is trying to introduce a new product, a new this, a new that, they have an activation is what it's called, and that activation allows the people to come in and interact with the brand, interact with the product. But the caveat of it is that you're selling a feeling. When I
Right.
create these things, I sell a feeling. I don't sell a product, because if I can sell a feeling to you, then the product is associated with the feeling. Then you go get the product. But
Right.
marketing and advertising today, as you both know, is about selling feelings,
Right.
selling
And
emotion.
it's going to absolutely it's going to sell itself. So you've basically did most of the work. You've already conquered the action of the sale
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
you sold, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because you sold the feeling, you
Yep,
sold the synergy,
yep.
and once the synergy is sold, then that's followed by the product.
Yep, and the good thing about the spot, once we had the space, then I could create those things in house and bring people in. So I know you were looking up some things. If you see, we did a collaboration with DMC from Run DMC, and then I launched the
Hmm.
whole thing there and brought him to Brooklyn, and it was just this really like, and we had him in our space is like 2 rooms, and we had him in the back room, so we had all these people kind of pass through, and I do a lot of augmented reality, so there's a lot of paintings that come to life. Put your iPad in front of them, the paintings start to come to life. So we did all of that, and then we have the people. We have 2 rooms in a huge backyard space, and then we have the people engage all of the art in the first room, and then when they go into the second room, like DMC is standing there, and so that was a whole thing for them, and they were able to engage him. Like nobody's gonna step around this corner and then, oh, here he is,
Right.
and so they engage him. He's talking with them. We had created this merch around it, and then to go outside and then have like a culinary experience, because we had food out there. We had
Right.
and then I like to engage a lot of people who are in the business but do other things. So there's a show on HBO called Betty. It's about these young girls that are skateboarders, and the lead in that show on HBO, she's a DJ. So I had her there DJing, and so when people came in, they're like, "Oh, she's DJing." It was all of these things that kind of create this very, very, very unique experience. When you leave from there, that experience is not duplicated anywhere else. Like it's
Right.
one of a
Right.
kind in that space.
No, you definitely can hear that, because like I kind of know a little bit about you. I
Hmm.
kind of been following you over the years, and
Yep.
and I understand that a lot of the processes that you go through are pretty intensive.
Yeah.
And I kind of want you to kind of touch on that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because not only that, you've also done a lot of these different things, so you understand what it should look like. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
at least have a vision in your head of what
Yeah.
it should look like. And I
Yep.
just want you to kind of talk a little bit about that, the processes, the intensive processes that you
Well,
sometimes go through and the things that you're
it
doing.
is it is it is super intensive, and I think most of the work gets accomplished beforehand. One of the reasons I think I can do it successfully is because I already kind of see the end result.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I see in my brain, I already see what this thing's supposed to look like. I already kind of see who's supposed to be there. I kind of see all of it. And so then it makes it a little bit easier for me to build it, because I know what I'm
Right,
building. And,
right,
but I think for me, the intensity comes from looking at that end result, looking at what this thing is supposed to look like, looking at what it's supposed to feel like, and, and then being able to turn it into that. But I do know, and I come from doing it for a lot of the big brands, a lot of the corporate brands. I work with Delta quite a bit, of the Candy Crushes, and so many others.
right.
So what their aesthetic is. Their aesthetic is A1, and so
Mhm.
and you're producing that for them, so
Hmm.
what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, and then you just take the time and create that for your own things as well. So I know how to bring the culture into this very pristine aesthetic and put the two of them together. Make something.
So,
Absolutely.
so your impressionist art I see was learned from your mother. Tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about that and how has that technique involved you and how are you able to blend it with your digital art?
yeah. So and so my mother's an artist, and right right before the pandemic, I lost my mother, and that was
Mm,
Sorry to
pivotal
hear that.
sorry.
in a lot
Yeah.
of
Condolences.
what happened in it. And thank you. And it changed how I move. But she was an artist from the. I think she created what art was for me because she showed it to me my entire life. And when we were little, all the cartoon characters and things we liked, she drew them in these huge like
Mm,
pieces of cardboard and hung them up. Perfect. They looked like
Yeah.
the cartoons. And so, you know, the TV didn't have to be on for me to be able to see, envision these things going on because they were all around me.
Right. Right.
And as a child, you don't your how you ingest that is purely personal. You don't even really
mm,
see that it came from her. You just know she did it and it's up there.
right.
I think as you get older, start to see that all of these things that she was creating, and then when I look around, I see, and I think even prior to, but even after she passed, I saw it so much more because I started to see other things that nobody she had tucked away and things because she didn't broadcast it. I feel it was for her. It was what she
Right.
was doing, and she would share it with, um, family and friends, really. And so the copper impression, I grew up with that because she had done those early from the '70s, and then she started to get back into doing them more. And she created about 8 or 9 pieces, but she gave them
Mm,
all like I had like 6 uncles and a couple friends, so she gave each one of them aunt and uncle a piece. So
Okay.
um, I was able to do an exhibit to her in 2021 when I
That's
went to
what's up.
all my uncles and aunts and I got all those pieces back from them and I displayed all of them. And so looking at that process, because copper impression is a serious art because you're working from the back to the
Right.
front. You have to make the impression in the back, and then it looks like this thing on the front, but you're not seeing what your final product is because you're working on it from the back. So I already knew from that like the level of complexity in doing that was high. So I you know I've recognized that early, and then I started to just like it connected with me way
Right.
deeper
that's super
because I
amazing. Shout out
saw
to
Well,
your beautiful
how
mother.
complex you were.
Beautiful, amazing mother.
Thank you so much.
and
And look
and
at you.
no doubt. And so here's another thing that I'm hearing, and a lot of people don't kind of understand that having forethought is a
Hmm.
gift.
Yeah,
And it sounds as you were going through these different things that you are absolutely gifted. It's that goes without saying.
thank you,
You know
thank
what I
you.
mean? But do you ever think to yourself about the gift of having that gift of being able to have forethought down the line
Yeah,
about different things,
well,
finishing projects, envisioning them?
what the when I first started my company when I was shooting music videos, I called it Visualizer Films, and because I would see, it's been something I think um, that I've had for a long time. Like I always see things. Like I could
Right,
sit and I could see a whole story happen, and only when I started to apply it to, because early on, like I create something, I write something. It was cool, but the depths and the levels of that you never really get to see until you get into these corporate spaces, right?
right,
And spaces that we're not in a lot. And you look at how long it's taken for them to come up with something, or how complex these things that in your brain are rather, and I won't say simple, but they're not as layered
right,
as it's looking over there. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, you know what? There is something to this. Like I'm got to the finish line already, and
Right.
I can see what this thing's supposed to look like. So it's sometimes like I'd be able to turn in a project, a concept project, and they'd like, you know, not be amazed, but where did this come from? How did this happen? But when we were talking about it in the room for 30 minutes, I had already started seeing it. So
Right.
by the time it was, I didn't want to jump the gun, but by the time that meeting was over, I could spit it back to you what you look like. And
Right.
so I think that is, I'm thankful for that ability to be able to um, turn those thoughts, then to be able to turn those thoughts into some tangible things. But I definitely recognized it early that I was able to do that.
I think you also, I read something, you're a cultural activist.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
tell us a little bit about that. Explain a little bit about that. I mean, because everybody can say that they're an activist. Everybody can say that they're doing it for the culture,
yeah, yeah.
but they really not getting up, actually putting a foot forward
Right.
to actually make it happen.
Tell
Yeah,
people
yeah.
what a activist actually
Right,
is.
Well, I mean, the root word of activist or activism is active and
right,
doing something. So if you're not really, you couldn't really be an activist if you're not doing things. And I think the first part of my activism, because I and let me say it in the realest way, because I don't spend time. I'm not in the marches and the protests and those things.
right.
But I feel like one thing about me, I feel like all of us don't belong there because we're all
Absolutely.
there, and something's not getting done somewhere else.
Right.
So I feel like we all have a position to play to make this thing right, and the people that do that, that's what they do because that's where they have the strength, and that's where they have the time. I think my thing I started out is providing opportunities for other people like us in these spaces. So early on, I would, even from the dance company time, and one thing that we don't know is how the other opportunities that exist out here.
Yes.
And people say, "Are you going to be the guy in front of you? You're going to be the performer?" But there's 1,000 jobs past that are taking care of people, feeding families, sending people to college, all those kinds of things, and we're missing out on it because one, we don't know, and two, nobody's telling us. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think I spent a lot of time trying to get people in place to do those things. And so I would bring people I know, young people I know, old people I know, whoever that was willing and needed something. I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna bring you into an industry that
Right.
that can feed you, that can feed you. If you do the work, it can feed you. And I don't want to, and I don't. When I bring people in, I try to show them, I try to teach them, and then I'm like, yo, you could go from here. Just bring some more people in, bring some more people in afterwards. Because the key is not being dependent on anything. So I'm not bringing you
Mm-hmm.
in to be dependent on me. I'm bringing you in to show you how this game works, and you can keep going and keep doing more. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. I have a bunch of brothers that I brought in, sisters, everybody that I brought
Right.
into this, and it gave them the opportunity to kind of learn this space and really move. There's a kid on Instagram. He's big now. He's on YouTube too. He just hit 1 million subscribers,
Mm.
and his name is Broly Gaines. If you look
Okay.
him up, he's a workout dude,
Okay.
and he was a young dude, friend of my cousin, a couple years ago, maybe almost like 10 years ago now. They were him and another one. They were working in these jobs, and the job wasn't really fitting him. So he asked if he could get some help. Took him from there. And the other thing about what I do is I make sure that my relationships are solid. Like I'm a
Yeah.
relationship guy. As you can see,
Absolutely.
Sangria and I like met. It's
Mhm.
is it was an old something.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, it might be going on 20 years. I think it's like 16 because I think it was
Like
oh 08,
60. Yeah.
08 that I was out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I value relationships and I value people, and so it's nothing for him to call me and me to call him, and we just and it's back together.
Right.
because the
Right.
relationship has always been valuable and it's always been solid, and we keep it like that. So in the same way, in the industry that I'm in, it's just that solid. I'm able to go and say, hey, I got a guy over here, he's good, put him to work. And so I was able to do that with the two of them, and they immediately went to work, and you know, they were able to get themselves in a good position. One of them ended up, you know, they didn't have cars. The next thing, in 6, 8 months, they had a car, and then a couple of years later, one bought a house.
Yeah.
And so when the pandemic hit, they were able, because they had, you know, a little to put away a little bit. He was able to then turn his his real love, which was working out, into a platform. And when he came back in, he was able to do a little bit of both when the pandemic broke, so he could maintain himself. But then he took off, and when I see him, he's always like, "Yo, you changed my life, because
Yeah.
when you did
That's
that,
what's up.
you gave me the ability to not have to just keep working, working, working. You put me in a position with something that allowed me to work a little and then work on my thing a little." And so right now he's huge.
And
He
you know
is,
what? That's art.
yeah,
I mean, you
it
know
is
what I'm
a,
saying? That's art.
it is,
But it's also a mindset. Like
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
like one of the reasons why the relationship between me and Zaya is so solid is because we got that common strength.
mm-hmm,
Like I don't mind bringing you in, like everything you
yeah,
just said. Like even on my side, Sonny will tell you, I bring them in, I show them, I educate
mm-hmm,
them. You know what I mean? I let them know, like, listen, if you're willing to do the work, this is
yeah,
here for you. You know
mm-hmm,
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes you give them a little push, a little kickstart, or whatever,
yep,
whatever. And but you gotta kind of being a good example. At least let me say that. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Like
mm-hmm,
for me, yeah, I do a lot of different things. People see me out, people see me whatever, whatever, whatever. But if they really, really sit down
mm-hmm,
and have a conversation, they'll see that I'm in it for their interests also. You know what I
yeah,
mean? For
yeah,
their
yeah,
best interests also.
yep,
So I just want to commend you for that, because as you was talking, it was just ringing in my head like, yeah, we from that common land. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
like
and
like
it,
like you
and
know
it's
me and you,
about,
we talk about these things all the time, and a lot of people just don't understand. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it could be somebody that's sitting right next to us hearing the whole
Right.
conversation and don't get it.
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
mm-hmm,
I will take the time to try to help them to get it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah,
But
yep,
it ain't about me. You know, we talking
yeah,
about you. So.
and and
I want to
and
take
and
it.
and so that's just to finish your question, that's part of my activism right there. And then the other end is just like civil things. You know, in New York here, we were on the brink of having a congestion pricing here, where they were
Mm.
going to charge us a toll to drive into Manhattan every day. And
Wow.
you know, there's no toll that exists, and it was like a 27 $27 toll, $15 toll or something. And I've been on the committee that the Metropolitan Transit System here, the MTA, put together to kind of like work it out. And I fought, and fought them, and you know, fighting them with anger doesn't work. You have to fight
Nope.
them with points. You got to make it make sense, because when you make it make sense, the common thread amongst us, black, white, brown, whatever, is that
Mm-hmm.
dollar. And so when they taking a dollar out of our pocket, it's all of our pockets. They know. So
Hmm.
when you make it make sense, everybody gets behind that. And so safe to say, we got it. It got, and they spent, just to show you what they did. They spent $500 million putting up cameras all around the city, because as soon as you drive over the bridge, come through the tunnel, it's gonna snap you,
Right.
send you a ticket. And at the last second, it was supposed to have to start in June. Got it stopped.
I
And
got a question for you. Is it because I hear you speaking about these different things? I hear you speaking about these different committees, and sometimes politics
hmm
comes into play.
hmm
How do you be able to do what you do, but not fall in the trappings of being politically judged in some way, shape, form, or?
Yeah, I think
passion.
there's always a little bit of that. But you know what, the interesting part about being politically judged is nobody really knows nothing. The one thing I really know is that I don't know, and that's what I do know. And so
Right.
just because somebody's saying something doesn't mean anything. You just really have to figure out what's going to work out best for you. So, and you know, me, I talk to you all the time, is transparency. But Robert F. Kennedy, who is with Trump right now, like I know him. He's come
Right.
to my gallery. I've gone places with him and things of that nature because one of my good friends is one of his advisors. And
Okay.
so that came together because, I have a friend that worked in the MTA. He drove the trains here in New York City. And during COVID, they forced everybody to get the vaccine. And if you didn't, they fired you. So many
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
people lost their jobs. And then they reversed it. Yeah, and so many, and the people that lost their jobs weren't able to come back. And it was a thing. It was a whole thing. It was why Kyrie Irving couldn't play basketball over here when the Nets had a home game, and all these things were in place, and it kind of changed the kind of changed how the division in the space, and
Right.
whether you for it or against it, just the policy got put in place, and that policy caused a division, and so my friend was leading the MTA's union against being having to take the shot. And through that, he got connected with Mr. Kennedy, and they've gone on to do things. Now, Kennedy is now endorsed Donald Trump as opposed to Kamala Harris, and there's so many issues that brought that into play that you won't hear. But what I do understand is the thing that's going to be necessary all the way around the board is, and I don't know who said it, but they said democracy and capitalism can't work together. It doesn't.
Mm-mm.
It's never going to be
Mm-hmm.
truthful, because if you
Right.
have a free market system, and democracy allows for, and when they say democracy, it means that the ability for everyone to be involved in the politics.
Right.
That's what it boils down to. So if everybody can be involved in politics, and it's a free capital, free money market, there's always going to be some wrongdoing, and it's guaranteed. So it's never
It's
like we
baked.
never.
It's baked in.
That's
I,
it. It's
you,
what it's going to be. It's
Right.
never going to be any other way, because the door is open that allows you to be able to pay to play, or do this for that, or do this,
yep.
Right.
and as long as it's there, it's going to happen. So I think people need to really understand that that's the truth. That's
Mm.
really where we're at. And so the things that we need to figure out politically, like they galvanize you in politics based on emotions. Again,
Yeah.
this
Yes.
whole thing is based on emotion. It ain't even really based on reality. It's
No.
based on emotions. And
Right.
so that's why they say and do these things that trigger emotions, because those emotions then lead to you going either one way or the other, but not knowing the root of the whole thing. And so I think I just straddle that, and when I talk to people and talk to them, I'm like, well, this and that and this and that, as opposed to I don't like this, or I like this because of this, and this makes me feel, and because I
Right.
see that's how they've triggered everybody, and that's why it's so stressful right now. This is a stressful time in this country right now.
Absolutely. Because
All
they like
right.
working on emotions.
I want to be able to take it back a little bit
Yes.
just to your artistry.
Hmm.
The Flying Art Gallery that you
Yes.
produced for Delta. How did that project come about?
So, and that's interesting. So and this will go back to artists and probably policy and things, but a friend of mine at an agency, again, they do quite a bit, and what happens is I get calls from these agencies to help produce these things, and so I'll come in and do it, and this was interesting because they knew that I had this art. I was in the art space, and they knew I was doing some things down at Art Basel. And what happened was we were flying six of the artists from New York City down to Miami for Art Basel last December, and the airplane was going to be full of media, full of influencers, and other artists, and they wanted to create this space that felt like a flying art gallery. And so what we
Mm.
did is we had these projectors in the seats of the planes, and we mapped all of the overhead luggage bins, and so all of them became art galleries. So each bin had its own like piece of art on,
Dope.
Dope.
and so it moved and everything. And then
Oh man.
during the flight, uh, we brought each artist up to the front of the plane, and over the microphone they introduced themselves, and it became just a whole gallery experience. But in the air, it's the first ever flying, in air art gallery. So
Man.
art exhibit. So that
Yeah,
actually came out crazy.
you know, but just to think of that, to be able
I
to
know.
envision that
Mhm.
is brilliant on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just to have that vision to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is just
and so
I'm
and
not
yeah,
surprised.
yeah, and they had a strong team, like really putting it together, and it was executed. The aesthetic was perfect for it, and it just opened up the it just opened up the opportunity to do more. Um, they wanted to originally make the whole roof like LED screens, like round LED screens.
Wow.
The whole roof of the plane was just that, but that would change the weight of the plane. It would change a lot
Yeah.
of things FAA wise, so they
Right.
didn't do it.
Right. Now
But
you're
that
dealing with regulations
yeah,
and all the
yeah, that's
different
right.
things,
But
and
that's the
absolutely.
level. So if you look at that, that might be the next level of what flight is going to look like. So
Yeah.
it's trying to figure out what the next thing is, and how you can do the next thing, how you make the next thing strong.
Wow. What's some of the new projects you're working on? I think we talked about something with Eric B.
Oh
and some
yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
things that
So
you
I've
got
been
going down.
so
Tell us what that's about.
Eric B from Eric B and Rakim is my brother for a little bit, and
Okay.
he is he's an actor himself now. He plays on Blue Bloods
Mm.
with what's homeboy's brother, Donnie Wahlberg.
Okay.
So he's the police chief, I think, on Blue Bloods. He's going to be in a couple more things coming out, but he's super connected. When I tell you, I've probably never met one person that knows everybody. Uh, I mean, really knows them. He's at their house, and it's incredible the the network that he's amassed over these years,
Yeah.
and and so he's created this talk show on a plane. It's
Mm.
called Jet Talk, and so
Ah.
we bring in, you know, we shot um, the first two episodes of it, and it's gonna be serious. He is because in Eric being Rakim, you've always known him to be in the back quiet, and so to see him as outspoken and as funny as he is actually, pretty refreshing to see. So
Right.
that's that. I have that. I have quite a few. I'm working on two friends of mine created a hip hop trivia game show, so we're working on producing that before the year is out. And then there's a couple film projects. I shot a short film. Actually, I'm going to send it to you all when we get
Okay.
done. Put together this short film for DMC, and it's called The Story. And he has a record with Grand Wizard Theodore,
Mm.
and so I shot a movie to it instead of a music video. It's a movie, and the movie tells the story of if artificial intelligence created hip hop. And so
Yeah.
there's like this whole kind of. I'm not even going to tell you too much more. I'm going
Right.
to share it with
Don't.
you.
Right.
So as someone that like does art and opportunities for others, what advice would you give any emerging artist that's trying to come up in the industry, and different
Well,
things?
again, what I see now, because everybody's an artist, everybody does everything. The the wildest thing about social media is that now you can't not do nothing. If
Right.
you're not doing nothing, you're not it. Like, so people are just coming up with things. I can't even tell you the amount of things I've heard people tell me that they do, that they are.
Famous on TikTok, all
Yeah.
that. I mean,
Well,
But I mean, for doing, like, they'd come up with anything. I'm a this, I'm a that,
I'm right.
and because now the cool side is that you have to be doing something. Remember
Mm-hmm.
before, like, there wasn't nothing. Now you got to be doing something. I mean, that's why if you click on anybody's page, they're in fitness, they're in real estate, they're in something. That head can't be there and empty.
Right.
Can't be. Is I'm a model. It has to be something. And I think we've gotten to the place where people are so taken by titles that
Right.
people are trying to find a title for themselves. And the other side of the coin is that you have some very legitimate people trying to work their way into these spaces, and they're not, because when you do it for real, you know, um, you're
No
not
shortcuts.
fluff.
Right.
And then you come in the game, you come in the door, and this person has 100,000 followers because they just been running the show
Right.
and ain't really doing nothing, and you actually do it, and you have 1,000 followers, and then they getting the look, you not, but you actually do it, and so
Right.
so it's discouraging, I would imagine, at some points. But I think what needs to happen is you have to, because the art is the art. No
Right.
matter what you do, I call it all art, but the art is the art. But you have to create these spaces that are very unique to yourself, because when you come out, you're in competition with 100,000 other people that are doing the same thing. I don't know if you remember, like, how Basquiat's art looked.
Yep.
Now every time I see somebody, their art looks like his art.
Right.
It's there,
Right.
it's in, and it looks exactly the same. So they're not really creating nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And so find your space. Find
Mm-hmm.
what your even a couple of artists that I work with, they do art um, that is easily when you see it, it looks like other things.
right.
Right.
And when we speak to gallery people, they're like, "Well, what's your voice? What's your thing?" And so you have to find your style of 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 art, of whatever you're doing, and lay into that so that it differentiates itself
I have
from
to
the other
agree.
things that come out. And so
Yeah.
I think, to go back to what you asked me, I think the business is
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do better. The
Right.
art is going to be the art,
Right.
but if you can figure out what your strategies are, um, how you're going to promote yourself, what your story is, because story is so important with everything. I think you need to do that, and if you have that and that's strong,
Right.
then you can bring the art in. But you need to know, like, what your lane is and identify that, because the first thing, I've been in places where people are like, "Well, tell me what you do," and they can't answer it.
Right.
They don't even
And you know
know.
what?
They didn't
That
figure
oh
out
my
their
God.
own. They didn't figure out their
Speaking
own
of
story.
speaking of what you just said, over here at Media Made, that's what Fan does. He allows you to expand. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So with him being who he is and then allowing me to come in, I already know who I am now. I already know what I wanted to do,
Yep.
even meeting him. So yeah, I absolutely agree. You have to know, because if somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, what you do?"
Yep.
They're not
Half
gonna
the
want to
time
work
they
with
don't
you
even
because
know.
it's like, yeah.
And then, or I've been in places and they're like, "Well, what's the inspiration for that, or what's this, or what's that," and they don't have an
Mhm.
answer, because and that right there tells that person that, one, this might not be authentically you,
Right.
Mhm.
or and if you don't know what you're doing, you can't sell me something. You can't sell it to
Right.
me if you don't even know what it is. And
Mm.
so they shoot themselves in the foot a little bit like that. So
Absolutely.
so I think the people, Sonny, like your question is, my advice to them would be to figure out who you are first, what your thing
Mhm.
is,
and
how
why
that
you want to do it,
why
your
you want to do
why.
it, and how you can express that
Right.
quickly and efficiently and effectively. Like if somebody asks you, "What's the this?" You got to be able to give it to them. Very, you have to be able to communicate that so that people walk away and they get it. It doesn't
Right.
have to be, and they will respect it, which is why they have a. I don't know if you've seen this guy. He's been selling this art. It's invisible, right? It's these walls. I don't know if you saw it, but if you look it up, and he sold these pieces that are, for tons of money.
Right.
But it's nothing. It's nothing there. It's blank wall. But he said, but he knows it enough that he can convince you that that's what it is. Like it
Right.
is there. It's there
Right.
in your brain, and you see
Right.
it. Da, 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 da. And
Right.
people go in and people get into that, and there are people
Mm-hmm.
that gravitate towards things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
if they said, "Yo, there's nothing on the wall," and he was like, "What do you mean?" And if it went one slip and you lose everything, so it
Right.
is.
Mhm.
It really is about knowing. It really
And
Yeah,
does.
and I
and
think too, even going back with that a little bit too, even with over here at Media May, like I think too, it's more important too to build a team because when you're out there and you're basically saying you don't know what you're doing, then you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like I don't do videos. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna pass that over to the team, whoever
Mm-hmm.
does it. So I think sometimes people focus on doing everything
right.
Mm-hmm.
instead of focusing, like you're saying, on that main thing that they really like to do and what it
Yeah.
is that they love to do and kind of really staying in their lane.
Yeah.
And you have so many people that's all over the place to where I feel like too they should have a team
Yeah.
because maybe one person over here can cultivate the social media, maybe one
Mm-hmm.
person over here can do the video editing, maybe one person over here can do that. And that's how you're able to build more too as well.
Absolutely. Like you have the right idea. Like having other people in place with you are imperative to things being successful, to things getting
Yes.
completed. And the biggest problem is things don't get completed. Like that's the biggest thing. People
Right.
start things and they don't get them done, and it's because
We
it's on you. It's on you, and you like, and then something else comes up, and then before you know it, 3 months have passed, and it's hard to get back to it. It's a thing, and it is.
and and we laughing because we go through that. You
Yeah,
know that's
Mhm.
I
just
go
part
through it
of the
still
bit.
sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
man.
and one of the things that I just want to add that you must be consistent. You must always
Mhm.
be consistent.
Hmm.
Anytime that they look in that space where you are or should be or was, you should still be there. They should still see you there.
Yeah.
That's that's what you do. That's part of your
Mhm.
consistency.
Yeah.
And so that's just one of the things I just wanted to add to that
Yeah.
because um
And I like to.
16
And I,
years I didn't
yeah.
even realize that.
Yeah.
Like
'Cause I think it was.
until
It was
Zaire
always.
said it, I'm like, cause I do what I do, cause I love to do what I do, and I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I listen. You just let me know, shit.
Yeah. I think it was like 08, 09, like when we had
Yeah,
it was early,
yeah,
early, early, early on. And that's just like consistency, like you said. Like when I met you that day, Media Made was in existence, and I think we got up and we did something like that weekend that I was
right.
there, and so it's always been consistent. I think this is, I've been in the magazine,
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the
On the
podcast
radio.
before. Yeah, I've been on the
Yep.
radio. I've been on the radio.
Yep. You was on the
So
radio.
you know what I mean?
Right.
As San has been transforming and taking things to those levels, like we've been right there together, and so we always able
Mm-hmm.
to keep each other. The what I like to do is whenever I ask people, you know, and I don't ask people that much, like what's going on and stuff, because I just look and see. I just wait to see what people tell me if they're gonna tell me about the thing that they did 10 years ago still. And if you telling me about what was going on 10 years ago, then I know you don't have nothing to do now. Like, You
Like,
know,
what are you
when
doing now?
when I met
I
you,
want
when
to
I
know what
met you,
you're doing now.
I was knee deep in the music video. So I think when I first got in the magazine, it was around being a music video director. And now,
Yep.
like I've been out of that for the longest, and so I still have some people. I have a friend that he'll introduce me to everybody, and he'll be like, "Yo, he's the music video director." And I'll be like, "No, I'm not. I'm not. That is that was the past. Like I have a whole when if you talk to me now, I'm gonna tell you what I got going on now.
Right.
I don't gotta go back. I don't even have to go back last year. You know, I
Right.
don't have to go back 5 years. Like there's enough going on, and that's where you can see the people who are staying consistent and staying busy, the people who are continuing to create. You know, we have our conversation now. Now we're on a podcast, so I know I know that we're doing something different than we were doing
Right.
before.
It was we doing
And
before.
yeah, and so I know it's continuing to move, and I know if the point between the magazine to the radio to the podcast, there's a ton of there's layers, there's tons of stories in between all of those things, and then wherever you going to next, and so that's how I know that it's moving. That there's me and you don't have to. Besides knowing that we know each other from 2008, we don't got to talk about nothing from back then. We can both talk
Right.
Right.
about what's happening right now, and I think that's
And
Right.
then
important.
and then the creators that are creating and they're creating something amazing and then they just sit on it and don't put it out. Like, what do you think, like, it's like the fear of it? Like, what do you think, like, it is? Because you have so many talented people out here, they'll
Hmm.
create something and then it'll just sit there.
Right.
I have a good friend. He's an excellent musician, singer, and he'll make something. He'll send it to me. I'm like, this is dope, and then I won't hear nothing about it no more until he sends me a new one. And I'm like, yo, bro, why don't you just figure out which one you're gonna do? Because what you're doing is you're passing up, especially now.
Right.
And I said, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you are actually working against how the music business works right now. You make a record, you clean it up, you make it right, you put it out.
Right.
Make another record, clean it up, you put it out because they're not waiting on you.
No.
Right.
Nobody's waiting on you.
No.
And I
And
think
all that
too,
shows is
yeah.
inconsistency.
And I
So
think too, with me being an artist, because I've done music and stuff like that in the past. A lot of people used to want to collaborate with me. Hey, Sonny, I want you on this track. I want you to do this, but okay, when are you gonna put it out? Are you gonna put it out? Because I don't like working with people that wants me to get on a track and then it just sits there.
Right.
yeah,
Like, no, put it out.
Right.
People want to
yeah,
hear it. Let them hear
yeah.
it. You know.
And that's the thing.
And
Like if you put it out, people will be able to engage it, and then from that engagement, things happen. But if
yeah.
it's you not taking the shot.
And people sometimes they stunt their own growth.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You know, it's like you plant this seed and you want the seed to grow into a tree, but as soon as it buds a little bit, you out there with your pruners and you're not allowing it
Yeah,
to
Yeah,
grow.
yeah,
You
that
know
part.
what I mean? So that's just me. I'm not, because we could get real deep into a whole bunch of shit.
hmm
But what's the ultimate vision, Zaire? You know what I mean? Because we're running short on time a little bit. But what's the ultimate vision? Where we going? Like I mean, I know you're gonna create stuff
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're gonna do different things. But what's the ultimate vision for the passion, the things that you do every day?
Well, the vision is to uh, keep creating a position where other people can
Yes.
be a part of it as well. And
Yes.
I'm heavily back into my film life, into my feature film,
Okay.
writing like crazy. I just came back. I was 5 weeks over in Europe, and I was
Mm.
shooting over in Paris, and I was shooting
I
over
was
in
gonna ask
south
about
of
all that.
France, and so like I'm building this international bridge. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
found some things over there. I'm looking at opening up an art gallery out there
Mm.
next summer, maybe for about 3 months, and starting to bring things over from the States over there, art, fashion, music, film. Maybe y'all gotta do your podcast live from over there in
Hey,
Paris and whatnot. And so
that'll be
things
fun
like
though.
that continue to
Absolutely.
things that continue to kind of, like I said, my whole thing is to create these unique spaces that they're gonna say, oh, I know he did that, or I went to that thing, because it's gonna be so curated. Um, that you leave there inspired, and that's it. Like the thing is to just keep creating, and then just being able to chill. Like me, I like to be in control of my time, and so everything I do is to time is freedom. If you in control of your time, you are truly free, and so that's the space that I'm looking to be free in that
What's
way.
up?
And so everything I do is to ultimately get me to that space where I feel free.
Feel free.
All right. Well, go ahead and plug all your social media platforms. Let
Oh
everybody
yeah,
know where they can follow you. If you got an art gallery somewhere people can view,
yeah,
website,
yeah,
everything.
definitely. Like you if you want to check the art gallery, the website is www.thethespot spot 4 art.com. And the same thing for Instagram at the spot for art. My Instagram is at Zaire Baptiste, Baptiste.
Mhm.
Easy. I use my name and everything so that they know. So, but definitely, I'm always down. I'm looking to get back to Phoenix. I actually came to Phoenix one time since, and we were supposed to get up, but I was in and out really quick. But
Right.
when I was doing the TV thing, but I'm coming back. Like I like that.
Yes.
I know that too.
And so there's something when you come back, absolutely tap in. I know you are,
Yeah.
but because we also got a TV thing going on over here too. So we
Okay.
kind of we pulling together Media Made TV.
Okay.
We're already broadcasting and we already putting content together for that. So by the time that happens, that's all gonna be in motion.
Cool. We can
But
share some
but
content. I got tons of content as well.
so we
TV
gonna
things that we
continue
into.
this conversation because like you, it's about freedom and time. And I've kind of been able to craft myself to be a standalone entity to
Hmm.
where I don't want to be reliant, or we do not want to be reliant on someone else controlling the things that we do.
That's it.
So
Absolutely.
I just had to throw that in because you said what you
Yeah.
said, and I had to let you know.
Definitely.
But with that being said, man, hey, listen, man, it was a pleasure. It's always
Always a
beautiful,
pleasure,
man, when
my
I have the
brother.
conversation with you. And let me just say this: may you always be blessed in all the things that you do every day, and may you prosper at each and everything that you do, each and every day that you do it, my brother. You heard?
Thank you so much. It's been amazing, and I always love to connect with you and Sonny. It's so good to meet you, and I know so many
Appreciate
more
it.
things to happen. But I'm just a call away, bro.
Yeah,
Every time you call me,
Oh,
absolutely.
hit the
super
phone.
quick.
Yes.
Shout out. You got any shout outs you want to give out to anybody that influenced your
Shout
image?
out to all the people who vibrate high enough to keep everybody feeling good. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's what it is, baby. Hey,
Right.
Zaire, baby, once again, much love to you, my brother.
Peace. Thank you to the whole
Peace.
Media Made family. Peace.
No doubt. Peace.